opening weekend was awesome. Let's talk about it. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Monday, March 30th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we'll recap everything that went down this weekend. The rookies are mashing, destroying baseballs. Dylan Cease looked awesome in his Blue Jays debut. Lots of bullpen happenings and things there. So we will jump all around, and let's get right into it with our players of the weekend.
Oh, my goodness! Unbelievable!
And for those new to the in-season podcast, if you hear an awesome sound drop or see it while you're watching a game or something like that, try to send me a highlight of it, and I'll kind of work it into our rotation for player of the night. Scott, why don't we start with you? Player or players of the week.
All right. I am going to talk about Munetaka Murakami. Let's do that guy. And I don't know whether to take credit or take blame here because I was talking him down all preseason, had no interest in drafting him. And yet when the week one sleeper hitters came out, he was the cover photo for it. Because obviously that's a different calculation you're making. You're addressing his prospects in the immediate term as opposed to full season. And hey, had a great weekend. Homered in all three games. And in fact, it was historic because he is now tied for second all time in most consecutive regular season home runs. Most consecutive regular season games with a home run to begin his career. And we have to specify regular season because he's tied with Chase DeLauter, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, also homered in 3 consecutive regular season games to begin his career. Obviously played in the playoffs some. DeLauter did. But anyway, Murakami, those were his only 3 hits of the weekend. He did strike out 4 times in a total of 13 plate appearances. So, it wasn't an absurd strikeout rate. I still think it probably will be, just looking at his history in Japan and understanding that the level of pitching overall is much higher here. But it was an encouraging start. I think, and this was part of my reasoning for recommending him in week one. Partly I like the matchups, but part of the reason was I don't know that there's much of a book out on him yet. And this isn't something we talk about a lot, but a book does get out on hitters. Their vulnerabilities are exposed, and obviously it becomes incumbent on the hitter at that point to adjust back. And I think that's mainly what we saw from Matt McLain last year and what we saw from James Wood in the second half. Matt McLain struggling with sliders away. I believe it was James Wood. He was having trouble on inside pitches. Less sure on that, but I know there was something on him that pitchers were exploiting. And so I think for now, Murakami has an advantage over the rest of the league, even as vulnerable as he's going to be to strikeouts. So for now, I think it's fine. Obviously, he's on a heater. He has a lot of power. Start him. Enjoy it, particularly if the matchups are right. But I do think there will be a point when the pendulum swings back the other way, and he will have times when he struggles as a rookie this season.
On that topic, I believe I did the math right on this. 77% of the pitches Munetaka Murakami faced in his first 3 games were fastballs of some sort. 4-seamer, sinker, and cutter, which you can argue a lot of pitchers use. Cutter's kind of an in-between, right? Some guy, Cam Schlittler kind of uses his as a breaking ball more than a fastball, but that's how Baseball Savant tracks them, is those are all fastballs. That's usually around 50%, maybe 55% for most hitters. So I think the book on Murakami was he struggles with MLB heat. That was the
velocity was part
the one
of it,
that we saw, right? There was that stat that, he had a 0.98 batting average against fastballs more than 94 miles per hour, whatever it was. And it was like a sample size of 20 at-bats or something. It was a pretty small. But that makes sense, right? He's new to the majors. Pitchers on the whole in Japan don't throw as hard as in the majors. So it makes sense that they'd want to test him. And, for the most part, he's looked great so far. But it's a tiny sample size. When he saw the one thing that I think was underrated is this is a guy who's going to walk a lot. I think he's going to be a patient hitter. And so, the concerns that he would be like unplayably bad, I think it was always, likeliest outcome was Joey Gallo or something like that, where low batting average, you really need to hit for that skill set. But I think he's going to walk a lot. And that there was, I think the big takeaway for me is just there were some voices who were very, very convinced that this guy just had no chance to hit. And I think a lot of those voices scared people off. And I think the way, Scott, you talked about it, and I think the way I talked about it, I think to all of us, it was, yeah, there are real concerns here, and I think they still are. Mm-hmm. But
he would have gotten a much bigger deal if there weren't concerns.
Right. And
a much bigger contract.
And there were also, defensive concerns and, and like that the reason he still got $17 million over $17 million per for 2 years. Like it wasn't nothing. The MLB did not value this guy as if he was just a AAA type hitter. And that, I think, is what I want to say, is that there were people who were talking about him as if he was just not a major league caliber talent. And there are going to be rougher times ahead for sure. There are going to be stretches where he looks lost and struggles and gets buried under mountains of strikeouts. And I think that, I would still take, you set that over under at 29.5% for the strikeout rate. Not sure which way I'd go. And so he's really going to have to hit for power, but the power here is special. And it might be enough to overcome the hit tool concerns here. Mm-hmm.
Again, that was Murakami that we were talking about. I want to see how he fares against left-handed pitching as well. Mm-hmm. None of the starters he faced this weekend were lefties, so another thing we have to watch out with him. But obviously off to a great start there. Murakami up to 84% rostered on CBS, 88% on Yahoo. Want to tie this back into Chase DeLauter as well, who we spoke about on opening night when he hit 2 home runs, but he added a home run in each game since, not on Sunday, but in the 2 following games. So homer in his first 3, he had 4 home runs total in those games. Homer off of Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, and Andres Munoz. That is a pretty good trio of pitchers to homer off in your.
Did you see the homer off Munoz?
Yeah, it was opposite field.
It was like opposite field, out of the strike zone. It looked like a defensive swing, and he poked it out over the left field fence. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, so I think the point that I want to make with both of these guys is, like, I don't want to get over my skis on either of them, but it feels like they just need to be rostered in all leagues just in case this breakout is actually happening for each of them. Do you disagree?
100%. Yeah, I think, like, I haven't written the newsletter for Monday, but my intro is planning to be about them, and I'm planning to throw a little cold water, maybe look at some other recent hot starts that proved unsustainable. I mean, look, Joey Wiemer right now is batting 1,000 with 2 home runs. I don't think any of us think
6. 2 home runs and a triple.
I don't think any of us think Joey Wiemer needs to be rostered outside of NL only leagues. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I think that feels pretty safe. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there will be hot starts that prove to be nothing. There will be guys who are hitless right now who go on to be MVP candidates. It's 3 games. We cannot draw any strong conclusions about 3 games. But DeLauter and Murakami specifically are young and talented enough that any signs of life should make them 100% rostered just in case. Even if you don't think they're superstars.
I will create a distinction between the two, recognizing that we know nothing at this point. I mean, that really is the theme of the show. Mm-hmm. We saw a lot of cool stuff this weekend, but we didn't learn much of anything, except maybe some bullpen roles and that Carlos Estevez really is broken. But other than that, we didn't learn much of anything. But I think between Murakami and DeLauter, I personally have a lot more confidence in DeLauter because I think contact is not going to be an issue with him the way it is for Murakami.
And the raw power might not be that much different.
I think in 5 outfielder leagues, there's a greater need for another outfielder like that. And even in points leagues, because the strikeout rate will be low for DeLauter, much lower anyway. I think there's a better chance it'll matter there. But he has an extensive injury history. So that's my main concern with DeLauter. When Murakami, it's still more long-term viability.
Yeah, let's just run through the rookies right now like we did on opening day. I mean, they all had, not all of them, but most of them had great weekends continuing on from opening day. Sal Stewart off to a great start, had the 3 hits on Thursday, 2 for 4 with a homer on Saturday, 2 for 2 with 2 walks on Sunday. He started all 3 games, hit cleanup in all 3 games. JJ Weatherholt, first player ever to hit his first career home run in his major league debut, and then a walk-off hit in his second game ever. He went 2 for 5 with a steal and 2 RBI on Saturday. Kazuma Okamoto, 2 hits on Friday, and then hit a home run here on Sunday to right center field. We heard a lot about the pull side power, but 110.4 exit velocity, 420 feet to right center field. I think that's really, really encouraging stuff there from Okamoto. And Chris, from your Marlins.
Yeah, baby.
Owen Casey, man, impressive debut weekend. He was thrown into the lineup on Friday against a lefty because Christopher Morel got hurt with the oblique and placed in the IL out of nowhere. He had an RBI single in that game, 3 for 4 with a steal on Saturday, and then on Sunday, a walk-off 2-run homer in the 9th inning off of Victor Vodnik. Owen Casey up to 58% rostered. Do you think he's he's probably not like a 3 outfielder head-to-head league, right? I feel like it's only 5 outfielder leagues for now.
I mean, if you have a roster spot to play with and DeLauter's not there, I think Casey's a perfectly fine player to throw a target at because I think you're still at this point in the season trying to stack upside, and Owen Casey clearly has a lot of it. So yes, there will be strikeouts and there could be some concerns about how he handles lefties, but he's a seriously talented young player who's going to play pretty much every day. So I think in any league, any of these guys, if they're available, should have been rostered just on the chance that they figure out. And I think Casey, Scott, I think this was something you said you wanted to talk about, but like, I think people just forgot about this dude. I'm not exactly sure. Like, we talk a lot about prospect fatigue, and I think Owen Casey is like one of the better examples right now of prospect fatigue, where he just had been around. He got like over 1,000 plate appearances at AAA. That never happens with top prospects these days. And so I think people just kind of soured on him, forgot about him, assumed he wasn't really all that talented. But I've always been a big fan. I think the power is legit.
I think it was just kind of oversaturation with prospects in general this spring. There were like we've talked about how it looks like a banner year for prospects, and there were so many to target at all phases of the draft. And then Owen Casey, he was away with Team Canada for a big part of the spring. He hit 133 during his time with the Marlins. So it was just kind of easy to push him to the back of the line. I have a ton of Casey because I kept drafting him as a bench guy in those 5 outfielder leagues. And so I would say, obviously Murakami and DeLauter were putting themselves in the record books, but it was actually Casey, I think, who impressed me the most this weekend of the rookies because he did hit the ground running like he did. He was out of the lineup for 1 game, and so we'll have to watch that with him, left-handed batter, but he came off the bench, obviously had a very clutch hit. And apart from that home run, that 3 for 4 performance on Saturday, 2 of his batted balls were over 111. I mean, that's legit power for Owen Casey. And I think if he is a platoon player, if that continues, it'll be a stretch that he'll matter in 3 outfielder leagues, but certainly 5 outfielder leagues is available. You gotta pick him up in all those.
Also, Chris, those jerseys just top notch, man. 80 grade, awesome Marlins jerseys here on Sunday. Just wear them all the time. They're
the gap between that hideous black City Connect with like the horizontal gradient lines and their Sunday. I think that's going to be their Sunday home jersey now. The teal opening season is a chasm. The difference between them, and that should just be their full-time look.
Yeah, they should have never gotten rid of their original color scheme and logo. I mean, the Rockies have stuck with theirs from the beginning, and I think it might be looking a little dated at this point, though I don't mind the purple and black. But the Marlins like were an instant classic with that teal.
Yeah.
No, and I do want to point out the other big rookie. We didn't talk about Kevin McGonigal. He didn't have quite as big of a weekend as some of these other guys. He did get robbed of a home run by Jackson Merrill on Friday, I believe. Would have been his first career homer, so very nearly had a nice weekend for himself as well.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll get into Chris and my players of the night. We'll do that right after this.
You need a hug?
You need a fist?
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
But you need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today, recapping the first weekend of the baseball season. And Chris, who was your player of the weekend?
I think Emerson Hancock. Late emergence as arguably one of our first Olive Garden breadsticks of the season, because he came out Sunday Night Baseball on Peacock. I don't know if you guys watched it. I thought it was a pretty good broadcast. I think they did pretty well.
I like Adam Ottavino, the way they use him.
Yeah, I liked Jason Benetti's great, and bringing in the two local color commentators. I thought that was a nice ring. Emerson Hancock, though, that's the guy we're talking about. He had 6 no-hit innings with 9 strikeouts and 1 walk. And Emerson Hancock's a guy who's been around for a while. He was at one point a top prospect, but entering this start, I believe he had a 4.81 career ERA across parts of 3 seasons. Last year, we saw 90 innings of 4.90 ERA. Little to get excited about, which is why I don't think anybody has mentioned Emerson Hancock on this podcast in like 2 years, probably, including when he made the Mariners rotation this spring when Bryce Miller got hurt. But this was a different version of Emerson Hancock than the one we have seen before. He threw his 4-seamer and sweeper a combined 79% of the time in this start. Last season, he combined to use those pitches 30% of the time. He threw 25 sweepers in this one. Last season, he threw 46 total in 90 innings. That basically is a brand new pitch for him. His velocity was down, but he got a little more induced vertical break on the 4-seamer. The sweeper generated some really ugly swings. I don't know. I'm kind of viewing this as let's add him just in case kind of situation, because I don't think there were a ton of pitching performances this weekend that I thought were like, we got to run out and add this guy right now. And partially that's because, for the most part, everybody threw their 1 through 3 starters. The Mariners got to their number 4 because they were one of, I think, 4 teams that played 4 games this weekend. So, like, we did see Mick Abel. He looked okay. We saw Didier Fuentes. He pitched great, but we don't know about the role. We saw, I don't know, Taj Bradley, but I'm just kind of tired of Taj Bradley at this point. He had a
ton of whiffs. But only got through 4 1/3 innings. Reynaldo Lopez, I thought, looked better than I expected, certainly, but not. His velocity was a lot better than we were seeing this spring.
But not to the point where I'm like, yes, we have to add Reynaldo Lopez. Randy Vasquez, I thought was impressive, but I don't know if there's a ton of upside. So it wasn't the best weekend for, oh my God, we have to run out and add this guy right now. I think Emerson Hancock is not quite at that level, but I'm adding him, or at least I'm putting in bids in a few leagues just to see. And I saw some discussion that, like, yeah, but even if he's good, Bryce Miller will be back and the Mariners don't have room for him as rotate. Like, life finds a way. Like, if your argument
now, I watched Jurassic Park.
Oh my God, yeah, you did. You finally understand what I've been saying for all these years.
I've got to talk to you about this, Frank.
Well,
it's one of my favorite movies.
We'll talk about it later on. But yes, continue on with Hancock.
A perfect movie. But look, if your argument against a pitcher is, well, I just don't know if there's going to be a spot for him, there will be a spot for him. Like, it's just that is not my concern. My concern is that Emerson Hancock might not be that good, and that's a fair concern. But what he showed on Sunday was a new look. He was pretty impressive against a bad lineup, but I'm willing to, throw a $6 or $7 bid out on him just to see if it was real. We'll get a couple more turns and see if this new look version of Emerson Hancock can be useful. I'm open to it, if not expecting it. Yeah.
And he is widely available. He's only 7% rostered on CBS. Definitely in the deeper leagues. I was looking to add him this weekend, Emerson Hancock, and just see where this goes. It's also, I think, a good matchup this week. He's at the Angels. The Angels had a good offensive weekend this weekend, but they also led the majors in strikeouts last year. So it's like, all right, how much do we trust from the Angels in this small sample size? I still do think they're going to be a team that strikes out quite a bit. Yeah. So in a deeper league, I would be interested in even streaming Hancock this upcoming week. Not a 12-teamer, but anything deeper than that. I'm interested to see what he can do there. My player of the weekend is Dylan Cease, who looked awesome in his Blue Jays debut against the Athletics. Speaking of strikeouts, they have a 47% strikeout rate as a team so far. 5 1/3 innings, 1 run allowed, 12 strikeouts to 1 walk, 24 swinging strikes on 90 pitches here for Dylan Cease. 15 of those came on his slider, which was ridiculous. His fastball velocity was up 1.6 miles per hour. He averaged 98.7. And he mixed in other pitches, too. He wasn't as fastball slider reliant as we have seen in years past. He mixed in a few more curves, sinkers, changeups, sweepers.
A real changeup.
Yeah. And that changeup was different this spring, too. I think I mentioned how I think the velocity was up a lot for it and it had a lot more movement. He only allowed 1 hard hit in this one through 68% of his pitches for strikes. So it's 1 start. I feel like we're going to say that for everything this weekend and especially the first month of the season. But we know Dylan Cease is talented, man. And maybe the Blue Jays are about to help him, kind of unlock what we've always seen is there and make him a consistent ace. That would be very welcome for Dylan Cease.
They gave him a ton of money this offseason, and he comes out with a revamped arsenal here that seems to make his pitches that were already his best even better. And so, time will tell how much of this was on the Athletics and how much of it was on Cease. But it was a very good first indicator in his new environment that this might be the best version of Cease yet. Again, we know nothing. It was a good first indicator, though.
In fairness, the A's did get better at making contact as the weekend went on. They struck out 12 times against Cease. They only struck out 11 times against Kevin Gausman. And then it was only 9 against Eric Lauer.
Yeah, that's true.
Although, you start to do the conversion rate on Lauer to Cease, and that's kind of like a 17 strikeout game for Dylan Cease probably. So, I don't know.
Yeah. So great first game there for Dylan Cease, and we'll see where he goes from there. Want to just get to the news and notes real quick because there was a lot that happened this weekend. And cue the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas meme. Here we go again. Jacob deGrom. He was scratched from his start on Saturday with neck stiffness. He said Sunday that it was feeling much better, and he remains optimistic that he'll start Tuesday or Wednesday in Baltimore. Look, it's not arm-related, so that's the good news, obviously, here. Do you guys start or sit deGrom this week? Again, said he thinks he's going to start on Tuesday or Wednesday, but we just don't know for sure.
Yeah, I think I'd have to start him if he's putting specific days out there when he thinks he's going to start either one of those 2 days. It's probably true. It doesn't sound like a serious injury, even with. And I'm the biggest deGrom skeptic because of his injury history, but I think you got to start him this week.
There was one league where I was considering benching him, but I think it was for a 2-start option. So, I don't actually think you should bench Jacob deGrom absent really good options.
Carlos Estevez. The experience. He was seen wearing a boot on Sunday after taking a line drive off of his left ankle on Saturday. Let's talk about that outing on Saturday. He blew his first save, allowing 6 earned runs on a walk-off grand slam to Dominic Smith. He averaged just 91.2 miles per hour on his fastball. On Saturday, leading up to Estevez, it was Matt Strahm in the 7th inning. It was Lucas Ursig in the 8th. Then on Sunday, of course, there would be a save opportunity with Carlos Estevez in a boot. And so Strahm got 2 outs in the 7th. Lucas Ursig eventually came on in the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He allowed a hit, but picked up his first save. So it's not looking good for Carlos Estevez.
No. And Matt Quatrero, the Royals manager, said, even apart from the walking boot stuff, he's not averse to putting Estevez in a lower leverage situation. So he's already talking that way. And frankly, I think it's overdue. I guess they were just hoping he'd magically lock back in once the season started. And hey, his velocity was up a little from spring training.
It was only down 5 miles per hour from where he was last year.
Yeah, still down 5 from last year. And
look, I think that thought process is fine. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, he wasn't there in the spring, but give him a chance. Let's see if the adrenaline can get going. And, it didn't. He only blew 1 game. I think that's fine. I think it's totally fine to give him 1 chance. I don't think he's going to get another chance. I think Lucas Erceg is going to have to flop to get to, and Estevez is going to have to look like himself for a while before I think he gets another chance. But it is notable that it does seem like it's Estevez or Erceg, who, wasn't great last season. I know the ERA was sub-3, but the strikeout rate collapsed from the year before. Stuff still looks really good. Still looks closer caliber. So we'll see if he can, run away with this role. But he did get the first chance and was used as the primary setup guy before Estevez. So
and I hate that I was prophetic in this way, because I think at the end of last week I talked about how I was thinking about just straight up sitting Estevez in Tout Wars, and decided to run him out there just because I had no other pitcher to fill that spot. But I actually said, it seems like a situation where he could just have a 6-run inning. And that's exactly what happened. 6-run in 1/3 of an inning with a walk-off grand slam for Dominic Smith, which was a very nice moment for him. He said after the game that he had lost his mom to cancer just less than 2 weeks ago, which I think was not something anyone knew about until then. So it was nice that he got to have that moment.
Yep. It was his first walk-off home run of his career too.
Interesting. How would you rank the 3 relievers that I think were most added or are going to be most added this weekend, being Jordan Romano, Lucas Erceg, and Cole Sands, who picked up a save for the Twins this weekend?
I think I would go Erceg, Romano, and Sands.
I think so too. The one hesitation is with those last 2, because it doesn't sound like Yates is going to be out for long. Not that he would immediately overtake Romano. It's not clear that he had the job in the first place, but that does seem like the clearest interference from the 3. I actually think Cole Sands is pretty clearly the Twins' best reliever. I wasn't targeting him this spring because they didn't care to use him in save situations at all last year. Maybe that's changing, and if it does, I think he could be decent. Twins aren't very good.
Yeah.
So that's part of the issue. But, I guess I lean Romano over Sands also. But Sands is, in leagues where saves are scarce, he's worth picking up.
Sands ahead of Beater, right? Because Beater got to save, Clayton Beater for the Nationals got to save on Sunday, I believe. But, I would put him behind the rest of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, the Nationals are probably going to be probably worse than the Twins, I would imagine.
Hey.
I don't know.
They won a series against the Cubs.
They did. Would you guys just go ahead and drop Carlos Estevez already, for any of these relievers we're talking about?
Maybe not in a 15-team league.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. In 15-team leagues, the save market is so thin that I think you hold on for just a little longer to see if maybe he figures something out mechanically, recaptures the velocity, but otherwise you can let Estevez go.
All right, continuing on with the news, Zach Wheeler made his first rehab start Saturday at AAA. 3 shutout innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, had 7 whiffs on 38 pitches, but all of his pitches were down 2 to 3 miles per hour. Granted, this is his first start, first time pitching in a game in a long time. So obviously that number could build up, but it was 93.3 miles per hour on the fastball compared to 96.1 miles per hour last year. What were your guys' takeaways from Zach Wheeler's first rehab outing?
Yeah, I know the Phillies have been unconcerned about it. There was a quote from Rob Thompson where he said something like he's right where he is usually at this point in spring training. I looked last year, his first spring training start, he averaged 95.9 miles per hour with his 4-seamer. The year before it was around 94, so that was a little more true in 2024. But I just, I don't know. If we had seen this before we were drafting, he's probably not a top 120 pick like he was in ADP, right? I think people probably start to panic at least a little bit. We saw, Strider's price drop from around 120 to around 160, actually, in the final week of drafts at NFBC. I think we might have seen something similar for Wheeler. So I don't feel more optimistic about him now that I've seen it. But look, it was cold in Lehigh Valley where they were pitching, and it's possible he wasn't focusing on his velocity. He was focusing on command and movement or what. Like, it's entirely possible that this ends up being nothing, or that he's just like Brandon Woodruff and he loses 3 miles per hour on his fastball and doesn't lose anything in terms of production. But I don't think you should bet on that. That is not usually how we think about pitchers. So I moved Wheeler down to about 150 in my rankings over the final 2 weeks of spring training, just because we never saw him pitch.
150 overall, obviously.
150 overall. Now that we have seen him, if we were drafting again, I wouldn't move him up based on what we saw. That's not to say I think it'll be a disaster, but it's just he was not himself in this start. Maybe he will get there, but this is not a surgery where we assume guys come back to be themselves. And now we have seen some evidence that he is not himself. So I do think you have to lower your expectations a bit.
Chris, when you said that he was distracted and maybe working on other things and working on his command and things, I thought you were going to say he was distracted by the fact that they had an all-you-can-eat ribs promotion at Lehigh Valley that day because they removed one of his ribs.
Yeah. I think they also, for one night, called themselves the Rehab Pigs, I think is what I saw. So
that is too much. The hammy bone strikes again. This time it's Andrew Vaughn. He is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks, and Jake Bowers and Gary Sanchez look like they will form a platoon at first base. The Brewers also promoted catcher prospect Jefferson Caro, who made his debut on Sunday. Caro has dealt with a lot of injuries the past couple of years. Last season in 69 games in the minors, hit .271 with 11 home runs and .839 OPS. Scott, once upon a time, Jefferson Caro was a highly regarded prospect. Do you have any interest in him in deeper 2-catcher leagues?
That would be deeper 2-catcher leagues.
That's it, yeah.
15,
and I don't. What about 12-team 2-catcher leagues?
No. I think there are 24 that you could like. It's not even clear how much Caro's going to play, right? So that's on top of his performance, which I think is very much in question. There's talent there. There's some pop, but it used to be partly a defensive-minded profile. I think all the injuries have sapped him of some of that, though. So, this is far from a can't-miss kind of guy, and we don't even know how much he's playing. So it would be just in leagues, 2-catcher leagues so deep that you're having to dip into like the Freddie Fermin class of catchers. That would be the only interest I'd have in Jefferson Caro.
Okay. I'm going to try and zoom through the rest of this news. If there's anything that stands out, just stop me and we'll talk. Josh Hader threw a bullpen on Friday, is still expected to face hitters in mid-April. Tanner Bybee, who left his first start with shoulder inflammation, said he felt good after completing a 26-pitch bullpen on Saturday. The Guardians have yet to decide if Bybee will start on Tuesday against the Dodgers. I mean, either way, if you can get him out of your lineup against the Dodgers, I think you probably should do that. Nick Lodolo threw a bullpen on Sunday. He got up to 20 pitches. He mixed in a few sliders. He'll throw again on Wednesday, and then the hope is that he will have a rehab start on Friday. Lodolo believes that he will only need one rehab outing before returning. Joe Musgrove has resumed playing catch, but doesn't have a definitive timeline to rejoin the Padres. The Orioles signed Shane Baz to a 5-year, $68 million extension on Friday. He made his debut on Sunday. It was not great. It was a mixed outing there against the Twins. Quinn Priester threw a pain-free bullpen session on Saturday. He is expected to miss the first month due to symptoms related to thoracic outlet syndrome. The way that they have kind of worded and talked about this injury has been very weird. The Marlins placed Christopher Morel on the IL with a left oblique strain and promoted prospect Davison De Los Santos. He started Sunday against lefty Jose Quintana. 2 years ago in the minors, he had 40 home runs. Then last year hit just 240 with 12 home runs and a 672 OPS. Chris, do you have any deep league interest in Davison De Los Santos?
Worth a look. I think there's some like Jake Berger potential there in like a empty 25 homer upside kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Just a heads up that Mick Abel pitched out of the bullpen on Sunday. I saw a lot of people freaking out on Twitter. It's because the Twins' early season schedule, they don't need an SP5 right away, but the plan is still for him to be in the rotation. I hope, because he was terrible in this relief outing. So hopefully they keep him as a starter. It was 3 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts.
There was some bad luck here. If you looked into it, I think of the, let me see if I can find, I think he had like 8 batted balls and 6 of them were hit 85 miles an hour or below. It was only a couple of hard hit balls. So There was some. That's not to say he was great, but the stuff looked still really good.
7 whiffs just on his fastball.
Yeah.
14 total.
He had 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. So of the 8 hits he gave up, 6 were hit 83.5 miles per hour or softer. So yeah, I don't think the box score necessarily. But look, the command was not good, and that was a problem for him throughout his minor league career. So yeah, McAble, not a can't miss pitcher, as it turns out, which I don't think anybody was saying he was. So it's fine.
We had some small trades this weekend. The Nationals acquired Curtis Mead from the White Sox, and as a result, they optioned Andres Chaparro to AAA on Sunday. The Marlins acquired Leo Jimenez from the Blue Jays in exchange for infielder Dub Gleed. What a name, Dub Gleed.
That is the most Star Wars coded name I've seen in baseball in a long time.
Dub Gleed and $250,000 in international bonus pool money going to the Blue Jays in that one. The Orioles acquired outfielder Jonathan Rodriguez from the Guardians for right-handed pitcher Carter Rustad. And also to the IL this weekend, Mickey Moniak with a sprained right ring finger. Just wanted to quickly point out some lineup stuff that I noticed on Friday. Ben Rice, Trent Grisham, Ryan McMahon, all out of the lineup for the Yankees against the lefty. I hope this Ben Rice out against lefties is not a consistent thing, because
I'd mostly be willing to dismiss it, except Goldschmidt hit leadoff against a lefty.
Well, if you'll remember
last year,
if you'll remember because when Paul Goldschmidt signed, there was a couple days of freak out from fantasy baseballers. I moved Rice down. I figured, okay, that's it for him playing against left-handers. But then Aaron Boone actually came out and said, not that they weren't going to play Goldschmidt against left-handers, but that when they did that, they'd probably play Ben Rice at catcher because they want him playing every day. Didn't happen the first left-hander they faced. That doesn't mean it won't happen against most of the left-handers they face, but it's back to being a question because Boone didn't do
the thing he said.
Didn't play it the way he said he was going to. Yeah.
Someone pointed out to me that this is the only lefty the Yankees face until like April 6th. So maybe they just wanted to get Goldschmidt a game early in the season. It's possible.
Most teams give a lot of their guys a day off.
Yeah,
the first weekend of the season.
Yeah.
So
they don't want anybody to get too stale on the bench. They want to kind of work them in.
Yep. Jack Caglione was out of the lineup Friday against the lefty. Carter Jensen was in. It was Lane Thomas in center field, Starling Marte in right field, and Carter Jensen at DH. Lawrence Butler played on opening day, but then sat out Saturday against Dylan Cease and Sunday against Eric Lauer. I think they might just be easing him in since he didn't play much this spring. There's also a chance that he just sits against lefties, so we'll have to watch that with Lawrence Butler. O'Neal Cruz did not start against the lefty on Saturday. I don't know if that was just, okay, you're really bad against lefties, or man, you were so bad defensively on Thursday. We're just going to give you a day off. So maybe a combination of those things. Isaac Paredes started all 4 games for the Astros and hit.
Let's go.
He got 1 start at second base. Chris, I believe you said he got a start at first base too. Is that true?
I believe so.
Paredes?
No, it was 2 at third, 1 at DH, 1 at second.
Yeah,
but the second was the more notable one that they.
I mean, if we get 4 more, we got a second base eligibility for Paredes. Yordan Alvarez, by the way, already 2 games in the outfield, so love to see that. Cole Young started against a lefty on Saturday, so might just be an everyday player for the Mariners. Kevin McGonigal got a start at shortstop on Saturday. It's been 2 at third base, 1 at shortstop so far, and then Colston Montgomery got a start at third base on Saturday. So Paredes
did come in to play first base, so he has 1 appearance at first base.
He appeared there. He didn't start there. Yep. So that's all that counts for CBS in terms of gaining eligibility is appearances, not starts.
All right, let's take our final break. When we return, we'll talk about a bunch of waiver wire standouts from the first weekend right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Let's take a look at some waiver wire pitchers from opening weekend. This first group here, mostly boring guys. I think they're mostly just guys that you would use in the right matchup, but they are between 50 and 70% on CBS, and each of them pitched well. Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Ronaldo Lopez, Mitch Keller. If you're looking at the matchups for this week, it's Keller against the Orioles, Ronaldo Lopez at the D-backs, Waka against the Brewers, and Lugo is also against the Brewers. Scott, how would you rank those four? Lugo, Waka, Lopez, Keller.
I think they're going to be streamers. They're all low ceiling pitchers. I guess I'd put Lopez first. Now, his velocity was a lot better than we were seeing this spring. It was still down a little more than a mile per hour from when we last saw him healthy. So I'm not saying he's out of the woods there. But, the last time we saw him, he was better than any of these guys. So I'll put Lopez number 1, and then I'll go Waka 2. I think he's the most stable for ERA and WHIP. And then I'll probably give the edge to Lugo over Keller, but it's a close call between those two.
Waka, by the way, 17 whiffs on 80 pitches. It's not something we're used to seeing, and it's not like his pitch mix or velocity was drastically different. So it's not something I would expect from Waka, but it was encouraging to see a really good first start from him.
Who pitched today for the Royals? Was that Lugo?
It
Yes.
was.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say he got super lucky in this one because I don't know what was Scott, did you watch that game? Was it just like the windiest day in Atlanta history?
Yes, there were a lot of deep fly balls that appeared to be home runs off the bat and then weren't.
Acuna and Harris, I believe, almost had home runs.
Even Acuna hit one 106. Harris hit one 109. That were both hit at the proper angles that they should have been home runs and just kind of died on the warning track. Matt Olson also had one.
It was less than 100, but it would have been out in some parks.
All three of them definitely looked out off the bat. I think Lugo got pretty lucky not to have a crooked line in this one.
Waiver wire pitchers part 2. I think some of these are more interesting than the names we just talked about. Rhett Lauder was solid against the Red Sox. 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. He had 14 whiffs on 86 pitches. At the Rangers this week, it's a good place to pitch. Eric Lauer looked good against the Athletics, but as we talked about, they strike out a lot. 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts, had 17 whiffs on 87 pitches. Joe Boyle looked good at the Cardinals. 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts. Big key for him, 0 walks through 69% of his pitches for strikes. And he is at the Twins this week, so good matchup for him. And Michael McGreevy had a great outing against Tampa Bay. 6 no-hit innings with 5 strikeouts. When you dig in, I didn't really see too much under the hood. He only had 6 whiffs on 96 pitches. He throws a bunch of different pitches, and his velocity was actually down like 2 miles per hour on his fastball and sinker. At the Tigers this week, Chris, how would you rank those 4? Rhett Lauder, Eric Lauer. That's very similar. Joe Boyle and Michael McGreevy.
I think I'd probably go Lauder, Boyle, Lauer, McGreevy. But I don't find any of these guys too interesting. I don't know.
I like a lot of the matchups here. Like if you're just a deeper league and need a matchup play this week, Lauder at the Rangers, Lauer at the White Sox, Boyle at the Twins. I like all 3 of those quite a bit.
Boyle's the one I want to take advantage of this week. He got through his first start with no walks. Boyle, granted, it was just 1 start, and we saw instances of him doing similar things control-wise last year, and then the control still became an issue. But if he's a guy who is limiting the walks, he's going to be really good, and he's going against a really bad Twins lineup next week, and what may be his final term before Ryan Pepio returns. So that's my main hesitation with picking up Boyles. It's a short-term play, but it's a very good short-term play, I think.
Eric Lauer, by the way, also just want to point out that he is RP eligible on CBS. So if you play in a points league, good matchup like that, obviously pitches for a good team, would be very interested in Eric Lauer this upcoming week. Deeper starting pitchers, Randy Vasquez was great against the Tigers. 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on 91 pitches. We talked about this during spring training. His velocity was up, and it was up here in this first start. His fastball looked really good. Velocity was up 1.5 miles per hour. He got 6 of his 13 swinging strikes on that fastball. We spoke about Emerson Hancock earlier. The other deep league name I had here was Carmen Majinski, who looked solid at the Mets. 4 1/3 innings, 2 runs, had 8 strikeouts to 0 walks. Got any deep league interest in Randy Vasquez? He gets the Red Sox this week. Don't love that. And Majinski home against the Orioles.
Not from me. I understand they got good results this time out, but I did not see enough under the hood to convince me, given their extensive track records of mediocrity, that there was much to sink my teeth into here. Unlike, for instance, Emerson Hancock, who showed up with this entirely new arsenal. I think Vasquez and Mezhensky are going to be our best left on waivers in most leagues.
I was willing to put in like some 4% bids for Vasquez across my leagues. So not zero interest, but not someone, like I said earlier, there weren't really anyone who I saw this weekend and said, man, I have to have that guy on my team. So.
Let's talk waiver wire hitters from the weekend, and might be looking for an Andrew Vaughn replacement, whether it's at first base or as a corner infielder in fantasy. Nolan Shanuel is off to a nice start with the Angels. He had 5 hits, 2 homers, 5 RBI, hit third in all four games for the Angels. Jake Berger, so far so good. Maybe just finally healthy again, coming back from that wrist injury last year. He has homered in 2 of 3 games, and he has hit cleanup in each game, regardless of facing a righty or a lefty. And Ryan O'Hearn off to a nice start with the Pirates. 2 for 4 with a homer on opening day, 3 for 5 with 2 RBI on Sunday. Chris, how would you rank those 3 as Andrew Vaughn replacements, or even if you just need a corner infielder? Shanuel, Jake Berger, and Ryan O'Hearn.
Berger, Shanuel, and O'Hearn. But I do want to point out so Berger, he played through a wrist injury for most of last season. He had surgery at the end of the season to repair it. Might just be healthy. He was a 30-homer guy. I think one of the seasons he might have had 29, but he was basically a 30-homer guy in 2023 and 2024. Shanuel, I do want to highlight because he was someone who talked about bat speed training this offseason. And small sample size, but bat speed is something that tends to stabilize pretty early. We saw it last year. Bryce Terang, you could notice it the first week of the season. His bat speed was up significantly. Nolan Shanuel's bat speed is up from 67.5 miles per hour last year on average to 71. So a 3.5 mile per hour jump. That's about the same as Bryce Terang's jump. Last season, it takes him from well below average to about average. And like we know Nolan Shanuel's got great plate discipline. We know he's got a phenomenal eye at the plate. He's very patient. He could stand to trade contact for damage. And we'll see if it works. You know, I'm not necessarily saying Nolan Shanuel's suddenly a power hitter, but I'm open to the possibility. You know, what we saw with Bryce Terang, what he go from like 5 homers to 18, I think it was, something like that.
Yep.
You know, if Shanuel goes from 12 to 20, he's probably a pretty useful player. If it's also, 265 batting average and he's hitting third and he still has the good plate discipline. So I'm intrigued by Nolan Shanuel. It's too early to say anything definitively, but I think this is a good sign for him.
Not a first baseman, but man, just stay healthy, please. Royce Lewis off to a nice start. 1 for 3 with a sock in the shoe on Saturday. He homered again on Sunday. He is 71% rostered on CBS. Some deeper names: Max Muncy with the Athletics, 1 for 5 with a steal on Saturday. Then he hit a home run on Sunday. He's 27% rostered, has second and third base eligibility. Luke Raley homered 3 games in a row to start the season for the Mariners, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Probably not going to play against any lefties, but he was, actually pretty productive in 2023 and 2024. So maybe he can get back to those levels. And David Hamilton already has 3 steals in only 2 games played. Looks like he'll start against right-handed pitching at third base, but not going to play against lefties. But he is really fast and could provide some speed. Scott, were you looking to add any of these names in any of your leagues this weekend? Max Muncy with the A's, Luke Raley, or David Hamilton?
I took a look at Luke Raley in some of the deeper roto leagues, the 15-teamers with the 5 outfield spots. I never pulled the trigger on making that move because, he's been around for a while. He was productive in 2023, 2024, but because he sits so often, still pretty borderline even in those deeper roto leagues. So, yeah, I just didn't think – I wasn't convinced there was enough upside at this point in the season, the caliber of players I'd have to drop for him to pull the trigger. I had been picking up Max Muncy already, even prior to this week. I was actually a little discouraged by the way the first week. I know he had the home run and the stolen base, but 6 strikeouts and 12 plate appearances was not what we were seeing from him in the spring. And it is reminiscent of what we saw from him as a rookie last year. So I came close to dropping him in one Roto League. Max Muncy, who was I going to drop him for? Like Max Scherzer or somebody like that. I needed a pitcher more, and he's scheduled to face the Rockies next week in Toronto. So I think I ended up just dropping somebody else instead. But that's more where I'm at with Max Muncy. And obviously I'd love to hold on to him if I could, but I think he's on the fringes of roster ability in standard size Roto leagues.
And a name for those in NL only leagues. We mentioned it earlier, but Joey Wiemer off to a blistering start with the Nationals, 3 for 3 with a triple and his second home run on Sunday. He went 3 for 3 with a home run on opening day. Looks like he's only going to play against lefties, but if he keeps mashing, maybe he earns himself some more playing time. He's only 2% rostered. Once upon a time was a prospect of note there, Joey Wiemer, but his numbers in the minors last year were pretty bad. So the jury remains out. Very skeptical there on Joey Wiemer. We are learning about bullpens, kind of. For the Angels on Friday, Jordan Romano did close out the 9th inning with a 4-run lead. He struck out 2. We know that he got a save on opening day. Just wanted to ask, how much did you guys see Romano going for in your leagues where Fab already ran, right? So Tout Wars or any NFBC leagues. He went for 132 in my Tout Wars league. This is out of a $1,000 budget. That's 15-team Roto, and then 189 in our Beat FBT 12-team Roto league on NFBC. So some big bids on Jordan Romano.
Yeah, and the Beat FBT league is only a 12-team league, so there's not nearly as much scarcity for saves there as the 15-teamers. It only ran for me in 15-teamers, and he didn't go for 100 there in mine. I think it was more like 80 to 90. And that's, no telling how good he is, no telling how long he has the job. So to me, that's a little aggressive, and maybe it just depends how you did with closers coming out of your draft. Maybe you're the guy who drafted Carlos Estevez, and you're like, I need to replace these saves suddenly. And maybe it'll work out. I know Emilio Pagan was an early season pickup with a lot of skepticism last year. Obviously, it worked out, but that was a bit too aggressive for me. I was bidding more like half that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did end up going 117 in my TGFBI league, which is a 15-team Roto. That is also a league where I had drafted Kirby Yates. My only other closer was Kenley Jansen. So
did you get him?
Yeah, I did get him for 117. The second bid was 78, so I could have gone cheaper. Mm-hmm. I was thinking more like 70, and then talking to you guys about what you saw in your other leagues, I was like, I'll bump it up a little bit. And it turns out I wouldn't have gotten him if I had bumped it up, so I guess it's probably fine. It's probably worth it.
It is wild how much it can vary from league to league. I mean, even in your league, Chris, 80 would have gotten him, except if somebody was bidding 80 and they were going against you, you know? It all it takes is one person to blow up the bid.
And in a 15-team league, you have to be a little more aggressive because there are only, at most, 30 closers, and usually less than that. So it's hard to have a second closer unless you really invest, and I did not.
Yes, as we're about to find out, there are not 30 closers in Major League Baseball right now. For the Athletics on Friday, Justin Sterner came on in the 9th inning with the game tied. He allowed a run on 3 hits. He took the loss. Then on Saturday, Michael Kelly came on to get the final out of the 8th inning with the bases loaded. He did get Vlad Jr. To line out. He stayed out there for the 9th inning, Michael Kelly. Gave up a game-tying home run to Alejandro Kirk, took the blown save. Then in the 10th inning, the A's took the lead. Scott Barlow came on for the save. He blew the save. And eventually the A's lost in the 11th inning. So, A, I don't know who it is here. B, it might not matter. I don't think.
I mean, Hogan Harris hasn't given up a run yet. Maybe they're going to back into giving him a chance, but it was.
Who is that? Whose name did you say?
Hogan Harris.
Okay, yeah.
But I was fine dropping Harris in Tout Wars for Scherzer.
Yeah, it just. I don't know if any of these guys are good enough. Is the big problem. That's a situation I will let sort itself out.
For the Cardinals on Saturday, Riley O'Brien came on in the 7th inning with a 2-run lead facing the heart of the Rays lineup. He allowed 2 hits but got out of it. Jojo Romero pitched a clean 8th inning. Matt Swanson came on in the 9th with a 4-run lead. He recorded 2 outs. He was charged with 3 runs. Ryan Stanek came on. He allowed back-to-back hits to tie the game. Stanek came out for the 10th inning. He allowed an RBI single but wound up with the win because the Cardinals walked it off. I do not think Ryan Stanek is good. Matt Swanson has looked bad in 2 appearances so far. I think Riley O'Brien and Jojo Romero are probably their most reliable relievers, and that was the case last year. But that's not how they've been used so far, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would not disinvest from Riley O'Brien if I had him already, because I think his time is coming. I had no interest in Stanek, even though he got the first 2 save chances. I think he's not even one of their best 3 relievers, and he looked bad. So I just had no interest in investing in Stanek whatsoever. Swanson's velocity was down, and maybe he'll come around still, but I don't know that he's getting the next chance.
Yep. For the Rays on Saturday, Griffin Jax got the 10th inning with a 1-run lead. He allowed a walk, then a sac bunt, then a 2-run single. He took the loss and is off to a disastrous start so far. Then on Sunday, Brian Baker came on in the 9th inning with a 4-run lead. He pitched a clean inning to close that game out, but the Rays tacked on 2 in the 9th. So it looked like he was going to get the save if it was a save opportunity. And in some of those deeper category leagues, I actually won Brian Baker in a few spots. I don't know that it's going to work out, but if they're going to use Griffin Jax kind of all over the place, I could see Brian Baker maybe getting a few saves there.
Yeah, I mean, that was the expectation. It wasn't necessarily, would it be Baker? Would it be Garrett Clevenger? Would it be Uceda if he was healthy? I think all of the above is likely to be the answer. It's Jack's likely to get most of the saves because that's, what I was going to say about the Cardinals bullpen. It seems messy right now. When you have one pitcher who seems to be the best pitcher and is like the fireman or highest leverage guy, that guy usually ends up closing more often than not. It's not 100% of the time, but that's usually the way it shakes out in the end.
All right, continuing on for the Twins on Saturday, they had a 3-run lead. Justin Topa pitched a clean 8th inning. Cole Sands was used in the 9th. He walked 1, struck out 2 for his first save. Taylor Rogers pitched on Thursday, but he was not used in that game at all on Saturday. So kind of just feels like Cole Sands will start in that role, we think, and we'll see where it goes from there. For the Rangers on Saturday, Robert Garcia started the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He got 2 quick outs and then gave up a single and a walk. He was relieved by Chris Martin, who gave up back-to-back hits. The game was tied, and then lefty Tyler Alexander picked up the save in the 10th inning. Do you guys have a feel for the Rangers right now? It kind of feels mix and matchy, I guess.
Yeah, I think Robert Garcia followed by Chris Martin. Just as we said going in, those are still my top 2 choices.
Yep.
I don't think we learned much, but they remain my top 2 choices.
For the Rockies on Sunday, Victor Vodnik entered with 2 outs in the 8th inning, a 1-run lead, runners on first and second. He hit a batter with a pitch and then had a couple strikeouts there. Victor Vodnik came back out for the 9th. He gave up a single, double play, then a double, then a walk-off 2-run homer. He took the blown save and the loss. I don't think Vodnik is very good. I don't think the Rockies are very good. For the Nationals on Sunday, Cionel Perez got the 8th inning with a 4-run lead. He gave up a solo homer. Clayton Beeter got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead, pitched a clean inning for the save. On opening day, they used Beeter in the 8th inning, and then I believe it was a 4-run lead in the 9th, and Cionel Perez pitched the 9th. So they might mix and match, but I'm still leaning towards Clayton Beeter being the main option there for the Nationals. For the Astros on Sunday, Brian Abreu got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead, walk, hit by pitch, fly out, walk, and he was replaced by lefty Brian King, who did get the final 2 outs for his first save. Were you guys
dropped this King?
Yeah, his velocity.
You guys looking to add Brian King at all anywhere?
So Brian Abreu's velocity was down quite a bit. It was down 3 miles per hour in this one.
Not good.
He averaged 96 last year. He was down to 93 in this one. I don't think it was down quite as much in the previous outings. So maybe it's just, probably his first time pitching on back-to-back days since last season. Maybe he just wasn't quite up to it yet. Yeah, his velocity was fine in the first outing. So I I don't know. It was actually down 4 miles per hour from last year. Excuse me. So, yeah, that's
in the
that's
first
concerning.
outing or in the second outing?
In the second outing. The first outing was down about 1 mile per hour. So, I'm inclined to just chalk that. Brian Abreu is a guy who's got a pretty long track record of being an elite reliever. So, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and chalk that up to just not having it that day. But it's worth noting.
Mm-hmm. And then for the Brewers on Sunday, Trevor McGill got the first save opportunity here, a 2-run lead. He allowed a hit, but struck out 2 for his first save. Abner Uribe pitched on Saturday. And, I mean, this Brewers game was a little bit weird because they took the lead late. But I guess my lean is that McGill as the closer, I guess, because they got the first. Yep.
And Abner's appearance Sunday was in the 8th, right?
No, he didn't pitch on Sunday. He pitched Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah. I think in the 8th or 9th inning, yeah.
Let me double check that.
Yeah, that was my feel for it coming in, just because McGill never lost the job, you know? Yeah. Like he just got hurt.
So Abner Uribe on Saturday pitched the 8th with a 5-run lead, and he was followed by DL Hall, who closed out the game in a non-save situation. But if they were planning on reserving Abner Uribe for saves, I don't think we would have seen that usage on Saturday. So I think early signs strongly point to McGill being just the closer. Doesn't mean Uribe couldn't overtake him at some point, but for now, I'd say McGill.
All right, I've got a whole bunch of other leftover stuff from the weekend, so let's do a little rapid fire, get through the rest of this. Old faces in new places. Mackenzie Gore took a no-hitter into the 6th inning in his Rangers debut at the Phillies. He likes pitching against the Phillies early on in the season. Remember that crazy game he had on opening day last year. 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts here, 15 whiffs on 90 pitches. Framber Valdez, solid in his Tigers debut at the Padres. 6 innings, 2 runs, 1 of those earned with 5 strikeouts to 1 walk. Chris, anything stand out here for you? Mackenzie Gore, Framber Valdez on their new teams, their debuts.
Some mild changes to Mackenzie Gore's approach. He's basically swapped out some 4-seamers for some sinkers. I think that was pretty much the biggest difference. I think it's too early to say, but I think it was, on the whole, somewhat encouraging. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's a brand new Mackenzie Gore, but it was fine, I think.
Yep. Welcome to the Rangers. Brandon Nimmo, 2 for 5 with a steal on Saturday. Then he hit a home run on Sunday. Welcome to Chicago. Alex Bregman, 2 for 4 with a double dong on Sunday. And then Luis Robert, he continues to look like a different player so far. Small sample, I get it. He had that great game on opening day, had that 10-pitch walk against Paul Skeens, had a walk-off 3-run homer on Saturday, then 2 for 3 with a run scored on Sunday. It's been a very nice, encouraging start here for Luis Robert. Early signs looking good for a breakout here. Cam Schlittler, awesome at the Giants. 5 1/3 shutout innings, 1 hit, 8 strikeouts to 0 walks. That cutter velocity, 95 miles per hour. That was just like we saw in the spring. It was pretty crazy. And then Cade Horton, solid outing here against the Nationals. 6 1/3, 2 runs allowed, 4 strikeouts to 1 walk. Only 1 start, Scott, but the early returns looking pretty good here on Cam Schlittler and Cade Horton.
Yeah, Schlittler especially, I feel great about him. Horton, this was a start a lot like what we saw down the stretch from him last year when he had that absurdly low ERA that was hard to understand. He actually he threw his changeup a good amount. It's supposed to be his best pitch. Only got 1 whiff on it, which was a little surprising. I don't know. It was a good start. I wish we saw a little more from the changeup, but I'm not going to harp on that after 1 start.
I do want to just point out with Schlittler, he's basically going like, I don't know, 90% 4-seamer, sinker, and cutter. And it's all 95 to 99 miles an hour. And it all, like, the sinker or the cutter gets about 11 inches of glove side movement relative to the 4-seamer, and then the sinker gets about 5 inches relative to the 4-seamer, and then the 4-seamer gets the rise. And it's like, that just sounds like a nightmare to try to hit. Just 3 different pitches, all upper 90s, all with different movement profiles. It's you don't really, it's like a souped up version of Lance Lynn, and you don't really see anybody pitch like that anymore. But yeah, he might just be a superstar. It's very impressive what he's doing.
Some of those sinkers, man, that he throws like 99 miles per hour in on a righty, they were just brutal. I don't know.
Seems like a nightmare.
I don't know how you could do anything with those pitches. Yeah, he looked great in that first one. Could these three hitters be taking another step forward? Shea Bangaliers, double dong on Friday, another homer on Saturday. He has gotten better basically each year he's been in the majors. Drake Baldwin, 2 homers this weekend, 1 against Cole Reagans. The only area that he really could have improved as a hitter is the launch angle. And if he does that, I mean, we could get a pretty impressive power season here from Drake Baldwin. And Wilyer Abreu just picking up right where he left off in the World Baseball Classic. Homered on both Friday and Saturday. Started all 3 games, 1 against the lefty, 2 against the righty. Chris, what do you think about these 3 potentially taking another step forward? Bangaliers, Drake Baldwin, Wilyer Abreu.
Yeah, I think Abreu looks very interesting just because we saw in the World Baseball Classic, we saw a little bit of in spring training. They're giving him that chance against lefties, at least early on. So it's interesting. This is the one of these 3, because I drafted Langoliers and Baldwin in a few leagues. I don't have any Wilyer Abreu. I'm feeling a mild tinge of FOMO so far about Wilyer Abreu. More so than, like, Cedar Rafaela, another Red Sox outfielder I didn't draft at all. I feel more FOMO about Wilyer Abreu.
He was in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And normally he's going to be in Boston, which is a tough place for a left-hander whose power plays to his pull side mostly. So I remains. I mean, obviously he's a fine 4th outfielder in fantasy, Wilyer Abreu, but beyond that, the idea of him taking a big step forward, I remain skeptical of that. It's hard to see Langoliers getting much better than he was last year because he was already so good.
Is he going to be the number 1 catcher?
I think Baldwin's the one I'm looking at here. The playing time we think is going to be close to every day now that they have pretty much an open DH spot. He DH'd against the lefty on opening day. Cole Reagans, a really good lefty. Did his home run come off Reagans?
Yeah.
Can't remember. Yeah, he homered off a lefty. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think Baldwin is such a good hitter, apart from just the fact he plays catcher.
Mm-hmm. What happened with these starting pitchers that had some rough outings this weekend? We just mentioned Cole Reagans. He was just bad at the Braves. 4 innings, 4 runs allowed, 4 walks, 3 homers allowed in this one. Scott, what did you see here from Cole Reagans? Any concern at all?
No, not really. The velocity was down a little bit. He just didn't seem as sharp as he usually is. I was seeing no reason for panic here.
All right, next up, Kyle Bradish, not at his best against the Twins. 4 2/3, 3 runs, 2 earned, 3 walks to 4 strikeouts. Velocity down a little bit. It was colder here in the Northeast. Chris, anything that you saw here from Kyle Bradish?
I want to say, was he scoreless through 4 and then kind of ran into some trouble? I think that was how that game went. So you're not going to get me to say much of anything negative about any of these guys, I think. Sorry.
He allowed 1 run through 4 and then gave up 2 more in the 5th.
Is that what the people want? They want you to say something negative.
I mean,
they might.
Judging by the chat's just been crapping on everyone today. So I think they want us to really overreact, and we're not going to do it.
There's a lot of that happening. I was talking to you guys beforehand where it's like, why can't we just be happy for baseball to be back? It's like anything that I tweet is just met with like skepticism or snark, and it's just like
we're all miserable all the time.
Come on, man. Let's just have fun and be happy that baseball's back. Come on, guys. Jesus Luzardo had a rough one against the Rangers. 6 innings, 6 runs, 7 strikeouts, 2 homers allowed in this one. Scott, anything here for Luzardo?
I mean, unless the homers become chronic, it's going to be hard to succeed when you give up 2 homers in the game. So he gave up 2 homers in this game, but unless that becomes like something he's doing every game, I think he's going to be fine. 15 whiffs on 99 pitches, 7 base runners in 6 innings. It was a good start, except he gave up 2 home runs.
Plus the bad starts don't count for Jesus Luzardo.
Well, when he's tipping his pitches.
Yep.
You're in agreement with that. Don't try and make this a Scott's a dummy thing.
Oh, it wasn't a specifically you thing.
Okay.
I'm making fun of everyone. Actually, okay. I do want to. There is one pitcher on this list I'm actually a little bit concerned about.
Is it
okay?
Continue. Yes.
All right. Emmett Sheehan. His velocity remained down against the D-backs. 3 1/3 innings, 4 runs, 6 strikeouts to 2 walks here. The velocity was down in spring. His velocity dropped down in his final inning of work. I actually had a buddy texting me today, Michael Waterloo. We've had him on the podcast before, and he was talking to me about how worried he is about Sheehan and how he has him in a dynasty league and how he's looking to trade him because he's pretty worried about what's happening here with Sheehan. So what do you guys think?
I mean, there have been like several 91-mile-an-hour fastballs from Emma Sheehan late in his starts, both in spring and now in the regular season. And, you know, for me, it's just there's been this weird disconnect, and I've commented on it a few times, between the way the fantasy baseball community looks at Emma Sheehan, which is this is one of the most talented young pitchers in baseball. And this is a burgeoning ace. And the way the Dodgers look at him, which is he's fine. He's useful to have around, but the Dodgers have not really prioritized Emma Sheehan in any way over the past 8 months, specifically in the way that we have all been expecting them to, right? Like last year down the stretch, when it came time to skip a start, it was always Sheehan. And when it came time to move someone to the bullpen, it was Sheehan who got moved to the bullpen. And the way we talk about Sheehan is this is like a top 30 starting pitcher in baseball. That's what he was being drafted as for fantasy. And
talent-wise, it feels like he should be if the velocity's there.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if like maybe this is what the Dodgers are seeing that we're not, that there's just some limitations or something in his skill set that's not quite what it appears in, a lot of shorter outings last season.
But he did have a few 7-inning outings too that were really good.
There were, but was he like throwing 100 pitches? I would guess not. I would guess he was, just unusually efficient in those outings. But it's worth noting that this was not what we were seeing last year, right? We're seeing like 3 mile-per-hour drops over the course of a game so far in spring and then in this first start. That was unusual for him last year. So this is just me spitballing ideas of like what could possibly explain that disconnect, because that's been the only thing for Sheehan. Whereas when I look at the skill set and I look at what he, the pitch mix and everything, it's like, man, this guy's awesome. Why don't the Dodgers seem to view him that way? Even this spring when they talked about we have our guys, Sheehan was never like one of the core rotation guys. It was always like Sasaki's in the rotation and then it's open after that. And it's like, well, Sheehan got in. He was the number 2 starting pitcher at the end of the day, but it was like, it just never quite seems like they are as on board as we think they should be. And that's just the one thing, because the Dodgers are smarter than me. I don't know about you guys, but I feel confident the people running the Dodgers, the people running the Dodgers are definitely smarter than me. And so that has been my disconnect. That's what I've been trying to figure out. And maybe there's just something that they've been seeing that we haven't seen. I'm not panicking about Sheehan. I'm not, dropping him, certainly. I'm probably not trading him, but this is concerning for sure.
Would you start him this week if you have him at the Nationals?
I would, yeah. The Nationals, yeah.
Yep.
I don't think this Joey Wiemer thing is going to last very long.
Tatsuya Imai had a rough debut against the Angels, 2 2/3 innings, 4 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, 49% of his pitches for strikes. Scott, obviously, look, the strike throwing stands out here. Do you use him this week at the Athletics, which is a very tough environment to pitch in?
Yeah, but it's also a very strikeout prone lineup, as we were just talking about, with the 3 Blue Jays pitchers who face him. I'm not unconcerned starting Imai, but I think it's too early to pull the plug. I mean, 49% strike rate is beyond awful, but it was also his first time making a major league start. And, I know he had all spring to get used to the new ball and everything, but this was obviously on a different level from that. And I think we can give him a little grace for this. If it continues much longer, then we have a problem. But I think against the Athletics with a matchup that favorable, I would run Imai out there again.
Mike Burrows, rough Astros debut here against the Angels, 5 2/3 innings, 5 runs, 2 homers allowed in this one. Did change up the pitch mix quite a bit. He gets the Red Sox this week. Chris, are you holding Mike Burrows? Are you benching him against the Red Sox?
I probably wouldn't start him against the Red Sox, but I wouldn't drop him either. I wasn't quite as excited about Burrows as you guys were, but I still think you need more than one start, certainly.
Yep. And oh my gosh, Brandon Sproat, I'm sorry if you streamed him and you listen to me. I apologize. He got destroyed by the White Sox. 3 innings, 7 runs allowed, 4 walks, 3 home runs allowed in this one. I mean, he did some interesting things under the hood, but I mean, it didn't matter. He got crushed, obviously.
Velocity was way up from when we saw him in the majors. He had this new cutter that the Brewers introduced, but yeah, it didn't it's not even worth bringing that up when it starts so bad for a guy who was barely rosterable in the first place.
So I think most people are going to drop Brandon Sproat. I think that's fine. It wouldn't surprise me if he has value again at some point this season, but sure. Obviously you can go ahead and drop Brandon Sproat. Some hitting leftovers from the weekend. Big G, Giancarlo Stanton, off to a nice start. Started in all 3 games, multiple hits in all 3. He homered on Friday, 108 exit velocity, 414 feet, 88% rostered on CBS. That kind of surprised me for Giancarlo Stanton. Yeah. Mike Trout.
Especially with how many points leagues there are.
Right. Yeah. As in it surprised you how high it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I Giancarlo to me feels like 5 outfielder roto league. Nothing more than like no league shallower than that. I would roster him in.
55 to 65% rostered rather than 88.
Yeah, something like that. Mike Trout, Chris, so far so good. Followed up his opening day sock in the shoe with another home run on Friday. 109.7 exit velocity, 403 feet on that one. Zach Neto, hand looks okay. He's off to a nice start. Homered on both Friday and Sunday. He had a stolen base on Saturday. Christian Yelich off to a nice start as well. 2 for 4 with 2 runs on opening day. He had a steal on Saturday. Came off the bench with a go-ahead 3-run homer here on Sunday. And Yandy Diaz racking up the hits early on. He had 3 hits on opening day, then a 5-hit game with 4 RBI on Sunday. He is batting a cool .563 through his first 3 games. Pitching leftovers, aces being aces. I'll just read off the names here. If you guys have anything, go for it. Chris Sale, Brian, Kevin Gausman, and George Kirby. Anything on those 4 that you guys saw? Kirby, Gausman, Brian Wu, Chris Sale.
I still didn't see arm angle data on George Kirby.
I didn't see it either.
Yeah. That's annoying because that's what I'm waiting to see if he recaptured the 2024 angle.
Yeah, it's not out there. That's weird.
Yeah. They're hiding it. They don't want us to know.
They don't want us to know.
Mm-hmm. Anything on those 4 or just kind of status quo?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that he's still not throwing the changeup / splitter would seem to indicate that he's not the guy he was in 2024. Again, as I've said all spring, that doesn't necessarily mean he's worse or bad. He's just different. He's just a different pitcher.
That's George Kirby we're talking about.
George Kirby. But I think George Kirby will be good. It's just a question of how good will he be.
4 other starting pitcher leftovers here. Sandy Alcantara looked great against the Rockies. 7 innings, 1 unearned run with 5 strikeouts. Yuri Perez, mixed start against the Rockies. 2 homers allowed. Don't love that, but 7 innings, 8 strikeouts. Obviously, that's great. Connolly early looked pretty good at the Reds. 5 1/3, 1 run, 6 strikeouts. And Nolan McLean racked up the whiffs against the Pirates. 5 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. Chris, anything that stood out here? Nolan McLean, Connolly early, Yuri Perez, and Sandy.
I think McLean was pretty iffy early on in this one. I think he had 2 walks in the first inning, if I'm remembering correctly, and then settled down. So, look, the stuff is clearly awesome, and it's just a question of how good the command can be. And I think it's just a question of can he be a top 25 starting pitcher or can he be a top 15 starting pitcher? I think he has that kind of upside. Just has to consistently throw strikes, but I think he's going to miss a lot of bats. So, very excited about Nolan McLean, Yuri Perez. It's just 2 bad pitches. That's all it was. He's going to be awesome, and it's just kind of similar to Nolan McLean. Can he be a top 25 starting pitcher? If it's like 1.2 home runs per 9, he's a top 25 pitcher. If it's 0.8 home runs per 9, he's probably a top 15 starting pitcher.
I'm wondering if Frank has any FOMO seeing Yuri Perez go 7 innings in his very first start of the year.
Well, it's the Rockies, you know.
In fact, it was quite the opposite. 10 hard hits allowed, 94.3 average EV.
But 7 innings. I thought your contention was that they won't give him enough innings to let him be an ace.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried about the home runs too. He gave up 2 home runs to the Rockies.
Okay. All right.
We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yuri's still out. Call to the bullpen here. Some other. What's up?
The Yuri's
still out.
Oh, yes, that was right there for me.
Yeah.
After years of not having a closer, the Marlins finally have a closer, and his name is Pete Fairbanks. He had saves on both Friday and Saturday. For the Yankees, David Bednar, saves on both Friday and Saturday. For the Dodgers, Edwin Diaz, sound the trumpets, picked up saves on both Friday and Saturday as well. For the Padres, on Saturday, Mason Miller, 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He walked 1, struck out 2. Did you guys see Mason Miller's entrance?
I did.
It was amazing.
There's a Twitter account called Great Moments in New Metal History that tweeted out the highlight package.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it will matter as much to you, Scott, because it's he walks out to the song called "Blind" by the band Korn, but it was pretty epic too.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I love the Dodgers. They've got a live trumpeter for the Timmy Trumpet song now for everyone's outcomes. Yeah,
that was awesome. I love it, man. Like let's see. I don't know what the verb version of thematicize, or I don't know whatever that word is. We need more theater for closers. I would absolutely love that. Yes, let's do it. For the Orioles on Sunday, Ryan Helsley picked up his second save. For the Tigers on Friday, Kenley Jansen struck out the side for his first save. For the Blue Jays on Friday, Jeff Hoffman just picking up right where he left off, game-tying home run, but then he did get the save on Sunday. Looked much better in that second outing. For the Reds on Saturday, Pagan gave up a solo home run in the 9th inning, took the blown save. Then on Sunday, he wiggled out of it for his first save. For the White Sox, Sir Anthony Dominguez, not a great first outing here. Came on in the 8th inning, bases juiced, 3-run lead. He got William Contreras to pop out. Then he gave up a 2-run single to Luis Rengifo, followed by a 3-run homer to Christian Yelich. And the final line here, 0.1 inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, blown save and loss for Sir Anthony Dominguez. Not great.
It'll get better.
The only place we could go is up, Scott, for Dominguez. To stream or not to stream on Monday. Names that stood out to me here. We have Chris Bassett against the Rangers. Cody Ponce against the Rockies is like number 1 with a bullet. Jacob Lopez at the Braves. Kyle Harrison against the Rays. Braxton Ashcraft at the Reds. Simeon Woods Richardson at the Royals. What do you guys think?
My top 3 would probably be Cody Ponce.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jacob Lopez chasing the strikeouts there. And number 3,
I go Kyle Harrison.
You would?
Mm-hmm.
I think Bassett.
I kind of think Ashcraft.
I like Ashcraft too, but in Cincinnati, it scares me a little bit. He does get a lot of ground
pitcher.
balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably like that. I would probably go Ponce, Ashcraft, Bassett as my 3 there. On Tuesday, I like Jacob Lopez, but at the Braves, kind of scary first start. On Tuesday, we have Eflin against the Rangers, Brandon Williamson against the Pirates, Max Scherzer against the Rockies in Toronto. Jose Soriano, good first start, but at the Cubs, don't love the matchup.
Yeah, I'm actually streaming Scherzer in some leagues as a guy who doesn't enjoy streaming, getting the road Rockies. That's the cushiest matchup of all.
Yep. I'd go Scherzer.
Don't love any of these others on Tuesday. If you're
I'm very interested to see German Marquez pitch, but I'm not ready to stream him.
If you're forcing me to pick 2 more, I'd probably go Jansen Junk and Brandon Williamson, honestly. But that's not a ringing endorsement.
Yeah. Eflin had a good spring. I don't think the Rangers lineup is very good. It's okay. So Eflin could work, but I kind of want to see what he does in his first start before I go out there and use him. The biggest news of all this weekend, we'll just wrap up. I mentioned it earlier. Guys, I finally did it. I watched Jurassic Park, tweeted it out. I had people responding like, what does this mean for baseball? Because they just didn't. They're like, what's the context? Why do you care about Jurassic Park?
All you're supposed to do is watch baseball, Frank. Come on.
I mean,
I watch a lot of baseball.
It's a perfect movie.
It was good. It was enjoyable. I can understand why for the time period that it came out, like being the preeminent dinosaur movie, like I totally get it.
It's been outshone by all these dinosaur movies since then. Is that what you're saying?
Honestly, I haven't seen many dinosaur movies at all, Scott. So it's,
exactly.
Jurassic Park just kind of, I guess, stands at the top.
It's the best one.
My favorite part is, honestly, and I tweeted this at you, Scott, like seeing Jeff Goldblum's character, and he's just like there shirtless,
the choices,
like a provocative way, coming off a scene where like a lot of very serious things were happening, was just mind-blowing and hilarious to me. I don't know why.
The choices that Jeff Goldblum makes in this movie are baffling. And that's usually true. Jeff Goldblum's kind of a baffling actor. That's part of what we love about Jeff Goldblum, but like just the line readings and the way he speaks, it just nothing really makes sense about it. And like he's
but
like,
this is the movie where I fell in love with Jeff Goldblum.
Like shirtless, lounging in the back of the Jeep.
It's so funny.
It's real weird. A phenomenal movie.
It's and I mentioned to you I mentioned this to you over Twitter, Frank, but the initial T-Rex attack on the Jeeps in the rain is probably my favorite movie sequence of all time.
When the dinosaur looks into the window and they shine the flashlight. Oh,
there's so many great.
The guy runs to the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Like there's so much to comment on. Like I could write a book just on that scene. Everything from like, Grant waving the flare and trying to get the T-Rex's attention, and then it looks at him and just the way his whole body buckles in that moment. I love that. I love the tension cutting of the Jeff Goldblum wiping the windshield clean. Like it just the tension of it is amazing.
Yeah, that Spielberg guy, good at making movies.
Yeah, this is his best one, I think. Honestly, it's the one I enjoyed the most.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
I'm a Lincoln head personally.
Yeah. You guys crushed me last year for never seeing Jurassic Park. I don't know what I was doing in my childhood. It was a lot of like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and like Dragon Ball Z and like anime stuff, and just watching the same Adam Sandler movies over and over again, and just never getting to Jurassic Park. But I finally did. It was fun. So
we watched Jurassic Park over and over again. It might be the movie I've seen the most, honestly.
We are going to wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.